What's up YouTube, I'm EVscape and welcome back to another video. First off, massive shout out to everyone that commented yesterday saying he's out of content. I was reading those in bed this morning and you guys, honestly, before the day had even started, you guys had already made my day. It was awesome to see. I truly appreciate each and every one of those comments. It was hilarious. That being said, today we're going to be answering the age-old question. Is it even worth sculling up at the Revenants? Are you going to make more money if you're sculled because you risk less items? Now, this video is very math-heavy. There's quite a few spreadsheets. It's very, very fucking nerdy. So, if that's not your style of video, maybe just skip to the end to get the answer. It'll be right at the end. But there's a lot of mathematics. If you guys want to see the process I went to figure this out, stick around for the middle. I personally enjoy seeing shit like this, and I hope you guys do too. That being said, let's go ahead and jump on in. Alrighty guys, so today we're going to be figuring out if it's actually worth it to skull up in the Revenant Caves. Now, we all know after the release by Mod Ash of the drop rates that if you're sculled in the Revenant Caves, you have a better chance at getting the rare loots. Now, that being said, when you're sculled up, you're going to be risking less items for the most part. And if you're risking less items, you're going to do less DPS and you're going to get less kills per hour. So what we want to figure out is not factoring in the fact that you can be PK'd at any moment, just straight damage per second. If you're skull with a gear setup that you would use when you're skull, will you make more money on average than if you were to use a gear setup where you're not skull? So what we're going to do is get ourselves an Excel document, which is going to be filled with all of the items that any revs can drop. I'm halfway through filling this out right now. Then after we figure out all of the drops that the rev can get, we'll go through like the imp, the goblin, blah, 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 blah. Figure out the expected value from each drop, sculled and unsculled. All right, guys, now that we've got all of the items written down, what we now need to do is go ahead and chuck down their values. We're going to put their values in this column here. We'll call this values. And then, fuck's sake. As I was saying, once we have their values written down, we then go ahead and grab ourselves the monsters that drop them and the rate at which they drop them, multiply them out, then we get the expected value per kill. Then we have to figure out how quickly you're going to kill it when you're sculled and how quickly you're going to kill it when you're unsculled. Right, there we go, boys. It is all fucking set in. I rounded down and rounded a little bit up for some of the items. For all of the statuettes and totems and stuff like that, I put in their GP value if you trade them in. It's just a bit easier if I do it like that. Looks a bit nicer, but for the most part, everything is pretty much their value is correct. Either way, even if the value wasn't correct, it's not going to really change the unsculled versus sculled factor unless we got the totems and relics and stuff like that wrong, which we didn't. So, we're sweet, boys. Now we need to figure out how much they're worth in expected value per kill for each different Revenant. So as you can see, lads, we've chucked in the values for an imp kill if you happen to be unsculled. These are all the things that you can expect and how often you can expect to get them. And you can see every time you're unsculled and you kill an imp, you get 2,673.45 GP in expected value. So there we go, boys. As you can see, an imp unsculled is going to get you 2,673.45 and an imp sculled is going to get you 4,818 GP. So quite a big increase between sculled and unsculled, but as we move up the list, as the drops get more and more common, the gap is going to close in terms of a percentage, but in terms of an actual GP amount, they will get bigger. I'm going to go ahead and finish off all these. This took me 30 minutes, by the way, and I have to do all of these. So this is going to take a little while, but let's hook in. Goblin done, guys. I decided there was an easier way of doing it, and that is the drops are the same for all the things that don't change when you're sculled and unsculled. So the exact same drop. I don't have to type these in twice. I've literally just half the time this is going to take, boys. That's what we like to see. But as you can see, a 3.3k difference between sculled and unsculled. like I said in the last one, big difference here. You know what I mean? Like, the actual GP difference is going to get bigger and bigger as we go along. Another thing to mention is the Pyre Fiend, Hobgoblin, Cyclops, Hound, Demon, and Orc, Dark Beast, and Knight and Dragon. These couple together in drop rates, or group together in drop rates. They all have the same drop rates for each different item, so I can just group them together and we can talk about that afterwards. Oh, I lied, guys. They only group together for the actual rare drops, not for all the normal drops, so I gotta do all these separately. Right, there's the Pyre Fiend done, guys. As you can see, there's a 7.6k difference there. Once again, the GP amount getting a lot bigger, but the actual percentage amount closing in. And there is the Hobgoblin done. Just a little bit more profit per kill than the Pyre Fiend, which was expected considering they have the same drop rates for the rare drops and just about the same drop rates for the normal drops as well. Once again, big gap here, 7,000 per kill. We now have so many more to go, guys. Fucking hell, this is taking forever. Right, fellas, there we go. I have completed all of the stats for each and every different Revenant, so you guys can see the best thing that you can kill is the Dragon, Scald for 53,000 GP per kill, Knight 49,000. You guys get the picture. At the end here, it's a 10,100 GP difference between Scald and Unscald. 10,100 here. So now that we have all the stats for how much money you would get per kill for each of these monsters, we can now go ahead and figure out whether or not it's going to be worth sculling up by chucking in the gear that we would use into a DPS calculator and going from there. Alrighty guys, so here we are with the DPS calculator. Now the plan is I'm going to do it with two different kinds of setups. One's going to be 90 range with a potion and eagle eye. Then we're going to do the exact same thing for 99 range and rigor, just to get sort of an example of both ends of the spectrum. Then on top of that, this is going to be your unsculled setup. You're going to be taking the crossbow. Carol's Coif is pretty cheap. Most people just risk that anyway. The assembler, salve EI, because you're going to be able to protect the salve EI if you're unsculled. Black DI body, black DI chaps. No gloves because you'll be wearing the bracelet. No ring because there's no ring that you can wear that isn't an archer's. And the blessed D-hide boots. This way, you don't have a +1. Even if you get smited, you're not going to lose it. And you're going to be able to protect your crossbow, your salve amulet, and your blessed D-hide boots. Then for the Scald setup, we're going with the crossbow again because it's the best weapon you can use for range. We'll do a melee one in just a moment as well. You have your Carol's Coif because most people don't care about losing it. The Ava's Accumulator. Actually, you know what? We're going to change it to the Accumulator over here as well. I don't think most people want to lose their assemblers. So Ava's Accumulator, the Amulet of Glory, because if you are Skulled with a crossbow, you are definitely not going to want to lose your Salve Amulet EI. I don't know someone that would want to risk their Salve Amulet EI. If you are going to risk your Salve Amulet EI, then this is completely pointless. Straight up, if you're someone that risks their Salve Amulet EI, then you will make more money Skulled, hands down. No question. You can just click off the video, there's the answer to your question. But most people aren't going to want to risk their Salve Amulet EI. So we'll go with the Amulet of Glory for this one. Once again, black DI body and chaps. Snakeskin boots this time because we don't want to risk any higher boots. No ring, and the Bracelet of Ethereum. As you can see here, guys, against the Revenant Imp, you're going to have a 10.16 versus an 8.50. So I'm going to chuck all of these stats in a separate spreadsheet, and we can try and figure out how many kills per hour you would get on each Revenant. Then we can figure out if it's actually going to be worth sculling. Right, guys, so it turns out we don't actually even need to go through all of the monsters because each Revenant has the same defense level and same ranged defense. So nothing changes except for its magic defense throughout all of the Revenants. So we just need to figure out one of the Revenants, and we use that as a guide for all of the Revenants. That's fucking good. Now, this is the setup we're going to be going with for melee. The reason we are wearing the Salve Amulet in both sides is because with melee, you only need the Salve Amulet E, which does not take any Nightmare Zone points whatsoever. You can just imbue it with the Tarn's Diary, meaning if you lose this Salve Amulet, it doesn't matter. You still get the 20% boost, but you are able to take it when you're Skulled and using melee. The only differences being you can't bring the Berserker Ring and you can't bring your Defender. Okay, so now we have our DPS on the Revenants if we were 90 range with that setup with Eagle Eye, and we have it if we were 99 range with Rigger. We have it if we were 90 attack and 90 strength with Ultimate Strength and Incredible Reflexes, Skulled and Unskulled, and then we have 99 attack and strength with Piety. Now that we have these details, what we can do now is figure out the health of the monsters, and we can figure out exactly how many kills we would get per hour with this setup, and thus figuring out whether or not it's going to be worth sculling up or not. Now, for the sake of this, we just have to pretend that we're not going to get PK'd. We just have to pretend that we are safe in the area. Otherwise, when you get PK'd is just an insanely crazy variable. You never know how many times you're going to get PK'd per hour. We don't know that if you're skulled, you're going to get PK'd more often. So we need to just leave the PKing side out of it and just go with DPS. Continuing on with that matter, I'm not going to be going over the lower level ones like the Imp and the Goblin and the Pyre Fiend, just because they've got such low health that this DPS difference isn't going to make a difference at all, and not too many people kill them at the higher level. Okay, I lied. I am going to go over the Pyre Fiend, but I'm not going to go over the Goblin and the Imp. So the Revenant Pyre Fiend has 48 hit points, and if we go ahead and take that 48 hit points and we divide that by the DPS of 10.17 if you're unskulled. If you're unskulled with 90 range and Eagle Eye, you can see that we would kill a Revenant Pyre Fiend on average once every 4.7 seconds. So what this means is, as you can see on the calculator here, if we were to kill a Revenant Pyre Fiend with the ranged setup, unskulled, Eagle Eye, 90 range, we would make 2.8 thousand GP per second. And if we were to do the exact same thing when we are skulled, you can see that we would end up making 3.684k if we were skulled against the Revenant Pyre Fiend. So given that, we will go ahead and use this calculation on the rest of the Revenants, and we can try and figure out whether it's going to be worth actually sculling up or not, especially for the higher ones. So I finished up the Pyre Fiend for the GP per second if you're killing it with these DPS calculations up against this right here. And as you can see, guys, it's pretty conclusive that if you're unskulled, you're going to make a lot less money than when you are skulled. Obviously, like I said, we're going to have to do this for the rest of the monsters, but if this pattern continues, it's going to be pretty clear that sculling is substantially better than not sculling. Alright guys, so there is the Hobgoblin done. A couple of things before we continue. Very interesting that because of the massive hit points difference, but only a small difference in actual drop expected value, you actually make more GP killing the Pyre Fiend than you would killing the Hobgoblin with either setup. Second thing, because the monster's defense doesn't change and the DPS doesn't change, this is going to be the same throughout all of the Revenants. So just by showing the Pyre Fiend, we've literally already proven that it is better to be skulled always. But just to solidify it, I will go ahead and do the Knight and the Dragon right now, so you guys can see that the two biggest monsters, it is better off being skulled. And then after that, I'm going to have a look at the DPS difference between a crossbow and a blowpipe. If you're one of those people that would unskull with a crossbow, but if you were to skull, you wouldn't want to risk the crossbow and you would go with the blowpipe, maybe it's better to be unskulled. I will check that out just after I finish up the Dragon and the Knight. Alrighty guys, there we go. The Knight and the Dragon are done. Now, very, very interesting. The gap between the difference of skulled and unskulled closes in the higher you get up. So if you're skulled on the lower level monsters, you're going to make a lot more. If you're skulled on the higher level monsters, as you can see here, the difference between being skulled and not skulled against the Revenant Knight at 90 ranged is 150 GP. Now this is per second, so that is quite a bit, but it does close in the higher the monster that you kill. As you can see down here, it's less than 100 GP per difference per second against the Dragon. I do just want to say, it's pretty fucking insane that you can make 2.8k per second against a Revenant Dragon with 90 ranged. Like, what the fuck? 2.8k per second. Insane. That being said, as you can see, it's relatively around the same numbers between the Pyre Fiend, the Hobgoblin, the Dragon, and the Knight in terms of GP per second. So regardless of what Revenant you're killing, you're still going to be making a decent amount of profit. So if you ever just roll past the Revenant Imp or the Revenant Pyre Fiend and just snob your nose up at it because it's a lower level Revenant, just remember, you actually make more GP per second killing the Pyre Fiend than you would the Knight. Now, what I want to go and check is that if you were to use a blowpipe when you're skulled and a crossbow when you're unskulled, would you make more money? I'm only going to do this up against the Dragon. Let's find out. Alright, there you go, guys. I've just calculated up against the Revenant Knight with the blowpipe. If you're skulled, this is the GP you made per second. Relative, we can put it out to an hour. It's going to tell you the same thing. If you're using a blowpipe skulled, meaning no salve EI, up against a crossbow when you're unskulled, you will make more money. So if you are going to change up your setup, if you're going to say, oh, I would use a crossbow if I wasn't skulled, but I'm too worried about getting smited out for it if I am skulled, I'm just going to skull up and use a blowpipe instead. Don't. Just use the crossbow unskulled. You are going to make more money. But in conclusion, you do make more money skulled at the Revenants if you're going to use the same weapon. That being said, though, as you can see at the higher levels, because the regular drops are so valuable, and the rare drops are starting to lose value, the gap is closing. Meaning at some point, when the rare drops reach a certain price, it will be better GP per hour to not skull if you are going to be taking better gear unskulled. That being said, fellas, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I'll catch you guys in the next one tomorrow. Take it easy. Yo, thank you guys so much for watching today's episode in EV365. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm putting out a new video every single day this year. Don't forget to click that bell icon as well so you get notified when it comes out. If you guys really enjoyed a video, you could also leave a like. That really helps out the channel to get the videos in suggested, and it's really good for channel growth. On top of that, if you are enjoying the videos and want to see some of these things get made live as they happen, I stream 5 days a week over on Twitch. Crazy stuff like this goes down very often. Boys!
Oh no, I know that noise. Oh, you have two!
I'm safe,
oh, no,
I'm safe,
please.
I'm safe.
How much cash is that?
124 mil. Holy fuck. Muscles.
Hey, disgusting.
Did you just fart?
Fucking disgusting.
And if you just want to keep up with my day-to-day wheelings and dealings, you can also follow me over on Twitter at EVscapeOfficial. All links will be in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video tomorrow. Take it easy.
Oh my god, I bet you got killed by a fucking bear. Oh my god.